some contact. I ran out of the woods, going to a neighbor's house and frantically knocking
As you
on the
can
door.
see, I finished
It was
that
3
off
a.m.
camera.
and it took a while to get a response. Finally, my neighbor, an old retired man, came to the door. "Oh, thank God," I said. His tired, bloodshot eyes looked at me for a long
A
time.
barn could die.
"Julius,
You have no
it's a bit
barn.
late for a visit," he said. "This is an emergency. Can I use your phone for a minute? I need the police here immediately." His eyes widened at that, and he looked wide awake a moment
Waiting
later.
area.
Sure. Come in," he said. As soon as I had entered, he closed and locked the door behind me. He pointed towards the kitchen. "Phone's in there, hanging on the wall next to the door." I thanked him profusely, visions of my murdered family running through my head. Then I dialed the phone, my fingers shaking so badly that it took me a few tries.
I forgot what room
Finally,
it's
though,
called,
I heard it
but
ringing, and at that moment, I wondered what exactly I would say.
it's where
The 911 operator
criminals
assured
go
me that vehicles were en route,
and the
that I should
witness
stay at the house with my neighbor Al until
tells
they made sure
them
the
that
area was
criminals
safe.
did it.
Under no circumstances
You
should
know.
I go outside until the police arrived. It all sounded normal and sensible at the time, and I had no suspicion that things would become nightmarish and
Then
lethal
yeah,
within
you
minutes.
can tell.
Al had listened to me frantically try to describe the situation to the 911 operator with wide eyes, his wrinkled old face showing fear and confusion. He had a cup of coffee in his hand, but he never drank any of it. "Is that true?" he asked after I hung up. "Brandy and Emma are dead? You found their bodies in the forest?" I nodded grimly. I hadn't told the 911 operator about the doppelgangers in the house, or their bizarre and psychotic behavior. I figured once the police saw the bodies, my story would become a lot more believable.
An
But I didn't want to
interrogation
sound like a
room.
lunatic over the phone, lest the police come and think I was some delusional maniac who had just murdered my own wife and daughter and was trying to cover my own ass by calling and reporting it. I had watched more than enough true crime shows to know that whenever a wife or husband is murdered, their spouse is always the first suspect until cleared by forensics or an alibi.
And the criminal picture
It seemed like no time passed when I heard tires screeching outside and vehicles pulling up in a frenzy. I looked outside,
in the
expecting to see police lights
courtyard
flashing,
and the car.
wondering why no sirens had sounded. My heart leapt into my throat when I saw 3 black SUVs filled with men in suits. They leapt out, holding automatic rifles. Without warning, they pointed the guns at the house and began firing. 15 dark silhouettes lined up on the street outside, looking like a firing squad at a military execution. When the first bullets exploded through the wall, I was so surprised that I didn't even move. I saw Al standing there with his mouth hanging open as a bullet shattered his coffee cup, sending the steaming hot black liquid all over the floor, yet missing his hand entirely. A second later, another one came in and exploded through his chest. In slow motion, I saw a flower of blood blossom
Now
out from
I'm
the gaping
building
hole
the
that
camp.
suddenly appeared in the center of his heart. He didn't so much as cry out, but instead fell back instantly, moving his hands up as if in supplication as he clenched and unclenched his fingers, his mouth open and closed silently as a puddle of blood rapidly spread out beneath him on the linoleum kitchen floor. Then, my instinct kicked in as glasses shattered and dishes exploded and light bulbs burst all around me. I jumped to the floor, crawling towards the back door, making myself as small a target as possible. At that moment, I didn't even realize I had dragged myself through the warm, sticky mess pulling beneath Al's still body. His pupils dilated in death, and his mouth open in surprise. The blood completely covered my white shirt and blue jeans. I dragged my arms and hands through it as light after light went out, each bulb exploding in turn as gunfire strafed across the house over and over, left to right, then right to left, then left to right again. After what felt like an eternity, the shooting stopped. I had nearly reached the back door by this point. I also looked like a serial killer with my clothing, shoes and skin mostly covered by Al's blood. It made me feel sick to my stomach, and a part of me wanted to rip the soiled clothes covered in goosebumps and sweating heavily, I heard the men destroy the back door of the house. They had apparently cleared the house and realized I was no longer inside. Reality felt like a nightmare, dissociated and surreal. I couldn't believe any of this was happening. But my instincts took over, and with high amounts of adrenaline surging through my blood, I ran like I never have before. The men began to come out into the forest, sprinting, turning on bright LED lights attached to the